But look, what we will do now is grab all of the speakers to come up and take a seat, and for those of you who've got burning questions, we'll take 10 to 15 minutes where you can fire questions at the speakers, and then we'll conclude our night. So please raise your hands if you've got any burning questions that you would like to ask any of our speakers from tonight. You will have to yell them out, because it'll be too hard to take the handheld microphone around. So. Have we got any questions out there?
To Shane, I'm just interested, obviously as part of a footy club, I'm sort of involved with the Aussabs here, and I just want to know how you really manage looking after 1,500 people. You know, how does it go for you personally every day, getting out? Obviously you've got a lot of managers around the place, but it's quite an impost on you knowing that you've got to look after these families in some format every day. Is there a way that you really sort of got to get yourself organised mentally to manage people?
It's about the people, so, and the trust in the people that I said earlier before. So one of the things, culture's absolutely caught, not taught. So, and lucky enough, and I think it's exactly what Brownie is talking about with Bossy and that. And if you'll do it yourself, people do it yourself. So one thing I left out of my story is I was 19 years old and we bought a business with 8 people and started the next day with 3. My cousin, myself and a guy that I employed. In 1991, he's still with us today. 25 years, he's over 70, he's well into his 70s, he's with us today. And one of the most emotional talks I've ever seen is at our conference. He said to the, we have 400 people at our conference, and he's a very shy person, he doesn't talk. And someone said, amazing, you're in your 70s and still working. He said, I love it. He said, but one thing I can tell you that's never happened in 25 years, Shane never told me to do anything. He always asked me. And I think the fish rots from the head, it's that simple. And then it's caught, and then those guys catch the good habits and it flows down through the thing. And you know what, and you got to have, and you got to be tough too. At Petstock, we have a no dickhead policy. It's simple as that, because if you get 1, you get 100. So sometimes they just got to go.
Yes.
Just a question for Megan and David. Any mindfulness apps that you'd recommend?
Well, I'd have to be a little bit biased to begin with and recommend an app called Insight Timer. I have a few of my own meditation recordings on there amongst about 800 other meditation teachers across the world. So there is about 3,500 different guided meditations on there. That's a lot to choose from. If that seems a little bit overwhelming, I think that Headspace is a fantastic app to begin with. So Andy Paddycombe teaches 10 days, 10 minutes of mindfulness meditation practice, which is a really fantastic, easy way to begin. Otherwise, Smiling Mind, particularly if you're teaching younger students.
The only thing I might add is that what a lot of psychiatrists teach people is not so much as mindfulness, although there are a lot of day programs that do that, and I totally support what has just been said. Another useful thing to learn, and they all overlap, is learning some self-hypnosis. And there are some tapes available which can do that, I believe. So I think Blue Pages used to be one of them. I don't keep up with the ones that are available, but psychologists, some psychiatrists will teach you how to do some self-hypnosis. I hypnotize all the medical students. They then write ratings saying I'm a very good lecturer, but that's total. So you can program in effect, things you want to brainwash yourself into thinking.
Yeah, on Sunday night on 60 Minutes, for those that saw us, I think it was quite a timely reminder of the stuff that we're here tonight with a young boy that had taken his life, and the constant conversation we sort of hear about is obviously the relevance of depression and obviously the prevalence of drugs in society. And from your professional experience over many years, David, is it does depression often drive drug use, or is drug use driving depression, or is it sort of, 50-50?
I think your remark that it's 50-50 is probably appropriate, because it is interesting that one of my patients at the moment is a young medical student, and she says even in a group like that, they all want to get drunk when they go out to parties. So obviously people do feel very stressed, and they see alcohol as a way of giving them temporary relief from the stress. I actually think modern life is very stressful for young people. When I was growing up, there was no such thing as Facebook, and do I have 20 friends or 5,000 friends, and everybody's having a good time all the time except me. So I think their life may be more comfortable in some ways for a lot of young people. It's also, I think, a lot harder in other ways, because there are so many expectations and performance expectations in people. And I think stress is what drives people either into alcohol or into drugs or into depression.
And Jane, I just wanted to know how you, remarkable in your delivery today, been going through something traumatic. What was it that you were able to hang on to that allows you to be so strong and so empowered to do what you're doing?
I'm actually not strong. I'm a heartbroken mother, and I don't want any other family to have to go through what we've been through, and I wouldn't want our son, if I'd known him, to go through what he went through. Like, we just want to make this change for our community. For our community, there was another 15 families like ours last year. This has to stop. We have to learn to talk. And as far as there are a lot of pressures on you all, particularly young people, when we grew up, if someone went overseas, you might get a postcard, if you're lucky, in 6 months. Now you've got Facebook. Everyone looks dashed happy all the time, which is not true. You can post things. You can go a whole day without actually having a conversation with someone. You've had emails, you've had text messages, you've looked on the Facebook, but have you actually spoken to someone? Have you actually looked into someone's eyes and seen how they actually work? Said, Jonathan, how are you? This is your world, and you're going to have to make some changes. So for me, the heartbreak's never going to go away. The guilt's never going to go away. I'm always going to think, what did I miss? I'd asked 3 other young people earlier last year, did you have a plan? Are you going to exit? Did I ask Sam? No. We asked him if he was okay, and he kept telling us he was okay. He was tired. He was getting better. He'd had Q fever, so if he worked physically hard, if he partied too hard, he would have fatigue. So he went under my radar that week. So if we can make a difference, that's what it's about.
I might add to that, Mike. For the parents in the room, make sure that you're available to talk to, So, and I know with my girls, I have a couple hours a week, no digital. So, and it is a drug. It's a terrible drug, digital. So, your kid gets pissed, you're angry at them. They're taking drugs, you're angry at them, but they're on a device for 24 hours a day. So it's no big deal. And I had a guy whose daughter passed away about 10 years ago, and I was incredibly lucky that I was at a conference, and I promised the girls I'd have a swim with them lunchtime. I ran down, ripped the gear off, jumped in the pool, put my gear back on, grabbed a sandwich on the way back past. It's pretty busy, and this guy said, do you mind if I have a couple of minutes of your time? I'd known him for a long time, and he said to me, you made me cry today. He said, just the fact that you run down there and did that. And he said, do you read to, my girls were young, he said, do you read to your girls that every night? He said, do you skim read? I said, absolutely. He said, what for? Where you got to be? Some shitty TV show. And it changed my life because I made myself available to them, and I'm super proud of my 16-year-old. The stuff she tells me is frightening, the world they live in, but I make myself available to her, and she actually went to a party Saturday night and took 4 bottles of mineral water, which I don't agree with because I love the alcohol myself, but super proud of her.
Thanks, Shane. I'll add to that as well. I know there's a mother in the crowd here I was speaking to one day, and she said a good way to trap her daughter to get her to open up was when they're in the car. She'd always ask them questions in the car because she knew that they couldn't get away. So a good tip to the parents in the room on that front. Question down the front.
I was actually going to ask exactly the same question that you asked, Matt, before, because we saw two amazingly courageous efforts tonight. One was on the screen, yours, Jonathan. It's your effort out there tonight, Jane, was unbelievable. Excuse me. But I do have a question for you. So, Jonathan, if I could, my question is, you mentioned leadership and the examples of leadership you saw in the AFL. So you're exposed to quite a few examples of, you mentioned Lee Matthews and others that talked up. But I was interested in your comment about the fact that you're the greatest leader you've ever met with your own father. And I was really interested in that. I know he had if I recall, he has a football pedigree himself, but there's probably more to that than him being just a great footballer and leader in that context. So would you be able to tell us sort of about how you arrived at that, Jonathan?
Well, my relationship with my father, I'm very lucky, but I suppose growing up, the thing that I remember most, and I try and use it in my parenting now with 3 children, is that he was always there, and he always took me everywhere. You know, he was a senior coach of football for a long time. Every Tuesday and Thursday night I was there. Every Saturday he took me everywhere, and he was my best mate from a young age. And I suppose exactly what Shane said. He was there for me. He was there to talk to you and obviously to pass on. Pass on advice, I suppose, all the way through, and that hasn't really changed at all. He's always led by example. He's such an honest man. He's honest with his feedback, but he's very caring and very positive. And Dad could give a spray with the best of them on the footy field, and he gave me plenty of sprays at home. Don't worry about that. But the majority of the time it was that positive reinforcement and that encouragement that still continues on to this day. Almost to the point where I would try and press Dad throughout my football career when you're at the absolute elite level, it's, you think you're supposed to get negative feedback and you're supposed to get criticism. And I would press Dad for it at times when I felt that, maybe there was some negative criticism there, or he could give me a little bit of a clip here and there, but majority of the time it would be still positive reinforcement. At the end of the day, that helps you. It helps you especially your mental well-being, and at the end of the day, it gives you confidence. When I walk down that football field, or when I become a parent myself, that positive reinforcement, positive feedback. So, in terms of leadership, they were the qualities that I hold dear to me, and I'm still very lucky that he continues that on to this day. So it's a good example for me to follow.
Down the front.
I just have a question. Obviously, there's a lot of focus and implementation on football as a culture, and that obviously is comes with a lot of female gender inequality. And I feel like a lot of women growing up deal with a different element that transcends from not being a part of a team as much as men do feel there's a lot of that more football culture and that unison within men growing up. And I feel like a lot of adolescent women experience a lot more, I suppose, outcasting or lack of that friendship, whereas boys become almost like brothers. And women go through a lot of things where they feel often betrayed and things of such, especially in younger people. And my question is more so in regards to you, David. Do you feel, same to you, Jonathan, so do you feel like in AFL there is as much exposure of anxiety, depression as discussed? And as well as do you feel like females encounter more of that difference in anxiety, or is it equally, there's not gender inequality? Because I feel like a lot of this talk, obviously I understand there's very much a football culture, but that does not really apply to women.
I just firstly, in men, we don't talk about it enough, our feelings, especially the AFL is very, very much an alpha male culture. The shame that it may bring on us if we open up about our feelings, God help us, in the locker room, is too much for too big of a cross for a lot of us lads to bear. So quite often the boys don't open up. Girls are a lot better at it. One of my biggest regrets in life, my wife's had mental illness. She's had postnatal, very bad postnatal depression, was in a bad way, and I didn't see the signs. I didn't ask the questions, and I wasn't open to, when the discussions were in their infancy, I wasn't open to accepting it. Just like, what's wrong with you? You're having a baby, this should be a happy time. What's wrong? Why can't you get out of bed? Why are you dizzy? My wife would drop the kids off to the babysitter and would go home, would cry, have to pull the car over and be in tears, or would go home and cry herself to sleep during the day, wait for me to get home, and then would try and pick herself up. Because would pick herself up before I walked in the door so that she could put on this, put up this barrier. So I would think that she's fine, she's normal, because I didn't listen and I didn't accept. And it's one of my biggest regrets, and certainly something I'm a lot more conscious of moving forward. But definitely that was because, especially for men, we find it hard to open up, especially, and sometimes we find it hard to listen to that sort of stuff as well. And David, you're the expert on it.
No, thank you, because I think this is a collaborative thing. It's a problem for the whole community, and it's not just suicide. Suicide is the final end point, unfortunately. If we go back to, again, as I say, the prevalence rates, 10% of men and 20% of women are going to be diagnosed with depression in their lives. And indeed, I was speaking to a patient about 6 months ago. She was at a 15-year school reunion of young professional, semi-professional women, and 50% of the group there were taking antidepressants, which is terrible. So it's a huge problem in our society. But it's also accepted that while perhaps football clubs and things like that do give men bonding and support, gradually as the years wear on they drift away from that support, whereas it is accepted that women generally have far better networks. But having said that, women also do get badly affected. So of people who actually die, about 5 or 6 men and 1 or 2 women die every day from suicide. But about 30 times that number actually attempt suicide. So maybe about 200 people a day attempt suicide with a greater or lesser degree of determination and desperation. And the vast majority of those are women. So there are huge pressures on people, and what we try to do is probably, I suppose we're all here trying to say, what can we do to prevent things getting to that stage where people are so desperate they think the only way to stop the emotional pain in their lives is to do something to themselves. So the point you make is quite valid, and really there's a lot of research in psychiatry which says that the fundamental protection against getting depression is to actually have a good relationship with your partner, ideally. And just as Shane was saying that he tries to ban telephones, when people are dating each other, they go out, they spend time together, they chat together, they socialize, and they do a lot of things on their own. They throw in a bit of physical friendly contact, and that bonds the relationship. X number of years after they've been living together with no malice, they've actually forgotten to do that. So the phones are on all the time, or the TVs are on, or when they socialize with other couples. So one of the fundamental bits of advice psychiatrists hand out is do turn off the phones and the TV, tell the kids get lost, and talk for 20 minutes. Doesn't matter what you talk about. You bring the right of veto. Anyone can say, I want to drop the subject. Whoever drops the subject then has to raise the next subject. So it's not going to be a string of deadly silences. And you go out on a date together once a week just to remind yourself that we can actually have a nice time together. So the point I think you're making is what protects people, and so bonding with groups protects people, but individual bonds with each other protects people very well as well.
Well, look, I think we could go on all night, and apologies if there are any extra questions. If you do have questions, then please email them through. We have gone a little bit over time, unfortunately. We were determined to try and keep it short, but I'm sure you'll agree that all the content was very valuable, and we'd love for you to all put your hands together and thank all of our presenters here tonight that have come. Thanks very much, guys. I really appreciate you supporting the first Game Changers event. We do have another one coming up on August 9th, so we'll encourage you all to save that date. Please talk to your friends. Please go away, implement whatever you've written down as growth strategies in your personal and professional life. And I'll quickly just hand over to Paul to wrap up. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Before you disappear, Mike, this is for you, so thank you so much. So on behalf of everyone here, thanks, Mike. That's it. Just in closing, just again, a bit of housekeeping, that you might have brought in a water bottle or some sustenance there. If I could ask that you do take your water bottles out, we've just got a table outside. As I mentioned earlier, you may have reflected on Jane and David's commentary tonight. Our collectors, coin collectors, are also there at the door, so if you feel inspired to donate a little bit more, any of that fund is going to the charities supporting the great work that Jane and David are doing in our community. Finally, as Mike mentioned, our next Game Changer session will be the 9th of August. Between now and the 9th of August, we'll be opening up our Oldsaverians network, which is really looking at getting people involved in providing that behind-the-scenes support for young people within our community. So oxfcnetwork@gmail.com, that will be launched in the next few weeks. If you felt inspired by tonight and friends and colleagues weren't able to see tonight's proceedings, please direct them to our website, www.oldsavs.com.au. The video presentations will be available. David's kindly offered information from his sites about the flyers. We're also going to make those available through the website as well. We're very committed to sharing information in making sure that we remove this stigma in our society. So tonight there's been a bit of heaviness, but hopefully a bit of light as well. And we hope that you join us again on the 9th of August. Thanks very much for coming.